Warning: spoilers for Ballerina below. I'm not usually someone who's too bothered by plot holes. Sure, it's satisfying to open up a movie and discover it's as precisely engineered as a Swiss watch, but it's hardly a requirement of good entertainment. What really matters is the effect of what ends up on screen. If it works in the moment, who am I to complain if the math doesn't all add up afterward? But Ballerina, a movie I enjoyed, is really testing my ability to suspend disbelief. The newly released John Wick spin-off aims to launch Ana de Armas Eve as a new protagonist with her own branch of the franchise, and it does the risky thing of trying to insert itself in the middle of the existing timeline. Ballerina's cast features some familiar faces, including Winston and Sharon, Angelica Houston's the director, and yes, John Wick himself. As nice as it is to see Keanu Reeves' assassin of few words back in action, though I'm struggling to get over his role in this film. Officially titled From the World of John Wick, Ballerina, the new movie is primarily set between the events of John Wick. Chapter 3, Parabellum and John Wick. Chapter 4, with a notable bit of crossover with the former. Early in the film, while Eve is still a Rusca Roma trainee, she witnesses the freshly excommunicado John ask the director for safe passage out of New York City. His request is granted, but at great cost. His ticket is torn, his ties with the family are officially severed. In the movie's final act, after Eve has wreaked havoc on the cult in Hallstatt, John Wick crosses her path again. The cult's villainous chancellor calls the director and threatens war between their two organizations, citing a centuries-old peace that Eve has just broken. As a last-ditch attempt to avoid conflict, the Rusca Roma agree to send someone to take her out by midnight. That someone, of course, is Wick. My issue isn't so much with what happens in this scene. Eve and John's fight, with the former clearly outmatched and the latter determined to avoid taking her life, is quite fun, and his decision to ultimately help her is a compelling development for both their characters. My issue is him being there in the first place. It makes no sense that the director would send John to do this job, let alone that he would accept. Ballerina has gone out of its way to remind audiences that Wick has been cast out of the Rusca Roma. The family risks a war they seem desperate to avoid if their operative fails to stop Eve, and they choose to send someone they no longer have any hold over. Even someone without knowledge of the wider franchise should at least find this development questionable. Reintroduce the context of the John Wick movies, and it's even more confusing. John remains excommunicado at this point, and the High Table had the director stabbed through both hands for helping him escape New York. What would they do if they discovered that not only did she hire John a couple of months later, but she knew where he would be and when without informing them? Does the threat of this cult really outweigh the risk of incurring the High Table's wrath again for either of them? I can understand why Ballerina's filmmakers felt the need for a John Wick encore on multiple levels. I can only imagine the reaction if Lionsgate marketed the movie on his return, and his first scene was all there was. But the story contortion required to make it happen was ultimately distracting. I've pulled on that loose threads since leaving the theater and watched more of the film unravel. I'd rather be thinking about what I liked about Ballerina. Ana de Armas proved what everyone knew after No Time to Die by emerging as a convincing action star. The film's approach to action is the Three Stooges to the main film's Buster Keaton, giving the violence a slapstick silliness that had me laughing more than I expected. A city of assassins that can all be activated at a moment's notice is a truly cool idea. I can't help but wish the movie had found another way to handle its ending, even if that meant leaving John out of it. Imagine, for example, that the director sent Noji, Eve's Rusca Roma mentor. A similar dynamic, but with reason to be much more emotionally charged, and it would have left Eve with a difficult choice to make. In the current version, the big choice is really John's. Eve is pretty much incapable of killing him, even if she wanted to, and walking away isn't an option for her character.